Welcome to the Boricua Culture Mix. I'm one of your hosts, Wilma Moore.
And I'm Dianne Rivera.
And this is where la isla meets the diaspora.
Echate pa' acá, te hice café. ¿Tú eres?
Y tú mata, hombre. Nah, we are your professional ratchet homies that want to talk to you about pop culture, politics, and things that are happening that connects both the island and the diaspora as one. My name is Wilma Moore. So I come from the city of Camden, New Jersey.
CMT? I have to put that in there.
Gang. My mom followed all of her family over here. Why? I do not fucking know. There's not a palm tree, a beach, lo que sea. Pero she was the last one to join the clan. Y from there, she gave birth to two daughters. She already came with one. Y we settled in Camden, and that's where I grew up. Got educated, did my thing, and so eventually went off to school, and then I now live in Fly, Eagles, fly.
You go from Philly to La Isla del Encanto.
And so from there, I go to the international airport and board my flight.
There you go.
And I go to the island a couple of times a year.
Okay. You have family in the island?
See, my dad's side, some stayed there, and then most of his family moved back there too. So they were like temporarily in the States, was always with the con el encanto de ir para atrás. Like especialmente my abuelo, he lived in upstate New York with his wife. Hasta que se murió, and then they always had their house en Yabucoa, y regresamos para atrás, y ahí están viviendo su vida con los coquí feliz, como se dice.
So, they're from Yabucoa?
Yeah, my dad's side, and my mom's from Ponce.
Oh, okay. You know what? That's why we're friends.
Y lo demás es
biking.
Y'all are so full of yourselves. I love it. Best quinequas.
That's right. So I'm actually from Ponce. I was born and raised in the island. That's on 2011. I actually came to visit my dad in Jersey. He was getting married at the time.
Wait, what do you, getting married? Like, to who?
Yeah, he married, for less than a year. So I don't know if you can consider that. I don't know. He got married.
Okay.
That's the one birthday.
Like, legitimately?
Yeah, they did a whole wedding and everything.
And you went there?
Heck yeah, they did. Well, I came for the wedding and I never left.
Yo,
that's the one Jersey.
You liked it here that much?
I didn't. To be honest, how do you come from the island to this?
And how did you stay?
I think I wanted something different. I just graduated from college.
That's right.
Went to Orlando.
Talk your conventions.
Yeah.
You went to Orlando first?
I went for Orlando, yeah.
¿Y qué conocías ahí?
I was doing the Disney College program, actually.
Yo, they got you. That's like a cult, bro.
It is. It sure is.
How long did you do that?
For a year.
So you sold your soul to the mouse?
I sure did.
Oh
I was going to
wait, let's go back. What they had you doing there?
You're not going to believe this.
I'm not.
So when I applied for the program, I said, you know what? I'm just going to apply. They went to the college and they were talking about it. Oh, it's a great experience. It was an opportunity to get into the Disney company. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, that's cool. So I went there and I applied for it, and I applied for any position. And there was one that it was called attractions attendant. And I was like, I'm not going to get this. I don't talk to people. I'm very quiet, And when they, send me the email, you're going to be an attractions attendant. And I was like, cool.
Not the one you was banking on not getting.
Exactly. And I was like, okay, where? Animal Kingdom.
Reverse Uno card. So you were talking to about the animals there?
No, actually, I was in the area of the dinosaurs. And they put me in an attraction called the Boneyard. They're actually going to be closed this year. Thank God. But it was a big playground for little kids. At that time, I was like, what is this? So it was kids screaming like that one. All the time.
Baby J.
All the time. So, but it was a very, very good experience. I worked for a lot of hours. I was getting...
Yeah, because they're child labor.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Thank you.
Let's sprinkle a little bit of allegedly on there. I don't want that mouse with the mouse tools to come after me.
Cease and desist in the first podcast.
Okay. I mean, that's low-key a goal of mine. Pero, allegedly. Supuesta y alegadamente, como dice la comadre.
No, but I was there. I was getting paid, I think, $7 an hour.
Again, child labor. Okay, allegedly, because that mouse be banking hella money.
And you know what? Like,
paying you $7.
Yeah, and part of the program
in Florida.
Yes, but
the mosquitoes is bigger than your paycheck.
No, literally, because they give you housing, and
that's probably how they circumvent like paying you properly.
But you have to pay for the rent every week. So
it's wild.
Yes.
So you did it for a year, and then te fuiste para acá.
So I came for the wedding.
Okay. And you thought Jersey? Why not?
Yeah, I was like, I was thinking of going back to Orlando because the weather was warmer. Remind me a little bit more of Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Como dijo mami cuando ella vino, que she was like, esto es feísimo. But she stayed.
Right.
Entonces, no era tan feo.
I think it's like, when you come here, like, the weather, you think about it, like, oh, it's kind of cute, like the first month.
Kind of cute.
And I think that's what it gives
it's
you,
kind of cute.
Yeah, like the first month, you're like, oh, it's
giving.
But then it's like, what the heck did I do? And I always thought of going back.
The regret sits back.
Yeah. But at the time, Puerto Rico was not at a good speech.
Yeah. ¿Tú crees que el lujo también de estar en Estados Unidos, like everything that like they tell you it's gonna be, there's like that promise that also makes you stay?
Yeah, I mean, I just graduated college, and over here I was like, what am I gonna do? Puerto Rico, there was not opportunities. I studied communications. Like that's the simplest thing over there.
Jobs at Guapa America.
Right, exactly. O Telemundo. You know what I mean? And then I just wanted to have an opportunity. I actually applied for the Disney professional program.
Okay.
And it was very competitive program, and in there I made it onto like the third round.
Oh, wow.
After that, they went with somebody else.
You could have been Senora Disney.
Heck yeah. The communications department over there. Can you imagine? But no, it didn't happen. But then that's why, I decided to try Jersey, and I found a job, and it was easier. It was easier to find a job here than it was in Puerto Rico.
I can understand that with all the political influx of what's happening on the island and what has been happening. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And it's been forever.
And like you said that 2011, 2012, we were also coming off of the recession too.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, so it was hard. And over here, it was easier to get a job. And I was like, okay, let's try Jersey.
And you left like yourself? Did you come with your siblings? Or you like packed yourself up? You was like, I'm going to this party and I'm staying.
No, actually, I didn't thought that I was going to stay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just came for the party. And I never left.
Qué fiesta.
Yeah. I think
hasta las 5 de la mañana, a.k.a. para Navidad.
Literally, that's what happened. And I stayed. I found a job. And I was like, okay, let's see what Jersey's about. And what? 11 years?
Yeah.
12 years?
I didn't have that privilegio to see what Jersey was about because I was born there. So I had to figure it out. But, my upbringing was very interesting because my mom and dad are both from the island. They met here in the States.
Okay.
But I was raised very Puerto Rican in this essence that, like, Spanish is in the home, English is outside. And also, too, as people who migrate, they bring their customs with them, their beliefs. And they weren't very assimilating. Like, it was just like, you're going to learn this out there, but in here, this is where we're preserving our culture. This is where we're preserving what we are. Like, I grew up salsa on the mornings to clean the home. The fabuloso muchacha. Di que ajas. Just learned it is Ajax. Okay? Di que my mom always sending us to the bodega. Di que cómprame ajas. In my 30 plus years of life, it is Ajax, guys. Que falta de respeto. But not, and like, just the culture, the food, your cousins being your first friends before anyone else, and that small enclave of like, this is our family, this is who holds you down, and this is how you get moving. That was my upbringing. And then Americanized things, because I have 2 older sisters, I'm the youngest. I started seeing things little by little through them of being like, oh, this is what it means to live in the States, because I didn't go to the island for the first time until I was 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because, like, my dad's family, él vino acá, and he stayed with a tía and the cousins. And, like, his mom was on the island. His dad was in upstate New York. And, you know, not to get into family dynamics, pero, you know, I thought my man was raised by wolves, to be honest. Like, I did not compute as a small kid that he came with folks. You know what I'm saying? Because, all I had was my mom's side of the family. We're always in and out of each other's homes. And, like, when it came to, like, his mom, I actually thought his aunt was his mom.
Wow.
Because él la tenía con tanto amor y respeto, and they look alike so much. I was like, oh, of course, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
Not recognizing that was his aunt. And then when I went and met my family in Puerto Rico, it was like, oh, this is what you come from. This is a whole extended side of me. And, you know, got to learn La Isla, not San Juan. I'm talking about Carol, the little lizards on the window panes, saying hola, buen dia. Yeah. Opening the shower to make sure the coquí is not showering with you.
That's right. That's right.
Y comprando el linde en crédito a la vecina.
Sí. And that's what I miss the most,
gosh.
you know? Like, when I came here, I feel like the first year, you're like, oh, yeah, something different, you know, you get... it's been, I don't know how many years, but I would never get used to it.
Yeah. It's so unnecessary.
It's very unnecessary. I like the change of the seasons, but, like, nothing compares to...
And I know for whoever's listening, we know the cold is necessary. It kills germs. Calm down.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, no, but I think that's... I love that your family kept that you were able to keep that essence of, like, your culture of Puerto Rico. Because for me, it was like I was born and raised there.
Gotcha.
And the culture shock for me was when I came back. When I came to the U.S., that there was like, I was like, what is this? Like, you know.
And you came as an adult, right? You said that right after. Yeah.
So I will come, like, my dad has always lived in the U.S., and I will, like, summers will come and visit, but it was very different. So when you...
Because you knew you had a return.
Right. And then in the summer, like, over here, it's not 19 degrees.
It's popping a little bit.
Yeah. So you will have that experience. I was like, oh, I can do this. I was like, I remember when I used to go there.
Remembering that we do not have summer all year round.
Correct.
And you're going to need a jacket.
Yeah, so...
From here.
Absolutely. So when I did that, and I, like, the first year I was like, oh, this is cool. I can do this. And I don't know what the heck is still doing here. But... Yeah.
Well, we have a wonderful family now.
We do.
You know, shout out to the husband.
Yes.
But so, all in all, this is an introduction and a retelling of our story and the importance of connecting that of the island to the diaspora. I know for me, it became very important to have those connections after Huracán Maria, and seeing the devastation of the island, the inefficiency of both governments, and feeling the helplessness of one. I was already in social work and social services at the time. And so feeling like, how do I organize? What do I do? How do I connect? My family was also, had days in which we did not talk to them, not knowing what was going on. And then recognizing, like, there is something more that I need to do. Although I was brought up in the culture, there was still so much that I had to learn. Mm-hmm. And I went through a program here in Philadelphia called Latino Partnership Initiative, and they work with professionals in the tri-state area.
Okay.
And they pretty much, like, get you a lot of professional training, a lot of, like, community service, and eventually you go to Puerto Rico.
Oh, that's cool.
And not just, like, again, not the tourists. When I tell you we went everywhere, Loíza, we stayed in Orocovis.
Okay.
We went to Caguas, we went to Ponce, we went to Aguadilla. Like, girl, I was collecting miles, okay?
Yeah.
Lao a lao. And just seeing the island and experiencing the culture in that space. Muchachos, si yo tenía boricua por todos lados, me salió mal. Loco, aquí se me estaban saliendo por todos lados. You know, like, that's just where it was coming from. And I think that I sustained that need and want to preserve that culture for myself and those who come around me.
Yeah. So, you know, it's very interesting you say that, because for me, since I was born and raised there, coming here, I had to change a lot of my culture, right? I had to adjust. And, you know, I feel like we keep a little bit of that. When you were, like, for example, for me, when I was born and raised, and when I came here and I started like seeing how Christmas is done here.
Yeah, it's trash.
It's so
it's
different.
So trash.
It's so different, right? But
and you can say it's trash.
Yeah,
our Christmas season is trash.
Yeah.
Compared to Puerto Rico,
absolutely. But
the longest celebrating time in the world, like
yes. But with that, it's like for me, I got a little bit disconnected from my culture, right? Because I was trying to connect here.
Yeah.
Right? I was like brand new and trying to connect, so a little bit of my culture got missed.
Will do it to you.
Yeah. So it did it for me a little bit. And I feel going to the island, you always get that energy back. And it's like, oh my God, I want to go back. But then it's like,
it's so welcoming too. Like, es que la esencia de la isla es algo que no se puede duplicar. And not for nothing, not just la isla, because I've also traveled to Echate, and it's the same way too. I was with one of my girlfriends who's from there, y eso, de dónde tú eres, wanting to get to know you and welcome to our island, and being very like welcoming is so beautiful. I mean, es la esencia caribe, en serio. And so like being able to have that, and it also makes you a little sad when other folks take advantage of that when they go to the island.
And like for example, this Bad Bunny album.
Girl.
Listen, can I tell you how many times I have cried? Because it's like I was telling you, I got so disconnected from my culture that this album, people can say whatever they want. If you're from Puerto Rico and you live there, I was like, oh, he doesn't represent me, blah blah blah. I don't care. But the fact
is that said, I don't care. Yep.
But the fact is that that he did his thing with this album because it actually spoke. Like it gave me back. I was like, wow, like I missed this.
Yo no sé qué maldito sofrido le echó en este álbum, pero it just calls to you in such a natural way, and it becomes this sense of no importa si you're an isla born or from the diaspora born, it's you're Puerto Rican regardless, and you're gonna remember this aspect, you're gonna remember that aspect, or you're gonna fall in love with this one. I think for me it's that multi-generational like acceptance throughout that way, and I think it was just so brilliant to start in Nueva York and you see, okay, ahora vamos pa Echate.
Yes,
it's so dope that and the intelligence and the like journey taking that he does with us, the listener, like I can't stop listening to it.
Same.
It gets better and better with time. And don't get me wrong, like yes, I am a Bad Bunny fan, so this isn't going to be coming off like everything he does is amazing. No, hay canciones que ha hecho que no tira conmigo, like what I mean. And then there's this album that's just like you can tell. I think you said it when we were discussing prior off the pod. But it's a love letter to the island, and it's a love letter to the culture as well. Of being like, I'm from here, and I want this to last, right? I want this to be, for instance, because I'm seeing the erasure,
correct,
and it's accelerated. And I felt that way too after Huracán Maria. Just if you watch patterns, what happened with Hurricane Katrina here in the States, how easily it was this displacement of folks from there. I knew as soon as Huracán Maria happened, I was like, oh, they're coming to take this island from us. They're coming to give the excuse that no one's here, so let's build here. And also, we don't do a good job of sustaining the paperwork, right? Like, in mi propia familia, tenemos terreno, but do we? You really come to look at the paperwork and who really is owner of what?
Exactly.
And I think that that's also the culture. Okay? We don't set ourselves up for long term, and after we're not here, we don't want to talk about not being here because la vida estamos gozando demasiado.
Eso así. Fun fact.
Okay.
I was not. I'm gonna get so much heat for this, but I was not a Bad Bunny fan.
¿Cómo?
I wasn't.
Not San Benito.
Yes. So you know what happened? I think it was, and it goes back to that. I got disconnected from the culture. I think no, I did. And when he came out, he was ratchet.
But I love that. But like. But that's reggaeton, that's the esencia of reggaeton, especially underground, right?
Yeah. But at that time, I think reggaeton was getting very commercialized. And here comes this kid with trap
Yeah.
In Spanish. You know, I remember he was getting big. I was in Six Flags with family. And that night, they were going to have a reggaeton night.
In Six Flags?
In Six Flags. It was packed. And Bad Bunny was going to perform.
No way.
Yes. He was just coming out. And I remember being there with family and friends.
Here in Jersey?
Yeah, here in Jersey. And I was with my brother, and we're seeing the line to get in, and we were like, what the heck are we doing here? Like, we're gonna come here to see this ratchet ass kid,
yes,
right? And
no, everything we have to do to go see him, right?
No, I have a story. I have a story to tell you, and you know it. But I was there, and I was seeing all these people like there from everywhere, and I was like, and I was gonna rain, and I'm like, I'm not staying to watch this dumbass. I'm sorry to say it, but that's how I said it at the time. And I'm sorry, Benito. I'm sorry. Big fan over here now. No, but I was like, no, this ratchet ass kid. I'm not gonna see him. I'm leaving. So I left. It rained that night. And my friends stayed, and my family stayed. I left, and that was the first time that I could have seen the number one artist of the world global. And I said, heck no.
Look at you getting your own way, Josie.
Yo, blocking those blessings.
Dios mío. You know what's crazy? Like, for me, Anuel, and like all of those Faruco, all of them, like, me da nostalgia, because at the time I was working at a after school program with kids who are from the island, from the Caribe, so like super Latino, and they would put me on, and they're like, Missy, escuchaste la nueva canción de Anuel? And I'm like, he's in jail. How do y'all know this? Like, and they would put me on, and there was this connection again of being like, wow, okay, I'm getting something from the island through these kids, and they're like middle schoolers, like 12, 13, so like they're idolizing these people, of course, because it's trap, and like a lot of them like just left that situation, and they're so son de los barrios, los nenes. So they were like putting me on. So every week they were like, oh, tiro esta, or you know this one, and da-da-da-da-da. We would like pick them up in our little van, and they were like, oh, let me connect to the aux cord. I'm gonna like put you on, and they would be so excited to share this part of them. And so I was instantly like a fan, because again, there's that connection back to something. So like para mí lo vulgar, like bring it, because I remembered listening to the noise tapes and Playero and like hearing all of the crazy things.
Yeah, and to be very honest, like I grew up with that too, right? Playero was like very known. Like I would listen to all that, but I think at that time, because again, it goes back to like it was so commercialized that it was like
because this was like also around the time where like Wisin and Yandel had like the crazy run, back to back like, albums, and it was also like kind of like repetitive in a way. Because I remember listening to him be like, oh, this is like the same music. This is not type of Wisin and Yandel. This is very te quiero, dame beso. Like I'm like wrap this shit up already.
No, yeah, and for me it was like, I don't want this to represent me. Right? I was in that stage of my life.
Interesting, Josie.
That is.
You brought into that white leg.
Ew, let's say that. But I feel like it was, for me, it was like, we're more than this. Right? It's like, I don't feel identified with somebody saying these things about la mujer. You know what I mean? So for me, it was very hard.
And your brain is also developing at that time. Because when you were 14 and 15, somebody saying, mamá te lo is like, whatever for that. No, I remember I was listening to the iPod back in the day. I was listening to Alex and Fido. I think it was Mala Conducta. And Papi comes in the room, and I'm like listening and reading, because I have that habit of doing both at the same time. And Papi's like, okay, tú escucha. Girl, when he puts that little pod in his ear, he was so disgusted. He looked at me and was like, esto es lo que tú escuchas. Está en sociedad. And I'm just looking at him like, yeah, can I have that pod back? But in my head, I'm like, qué hipocresía.
Right.
Because, ¿a qué viejo motel?
¿A qué viejo motel? Yeah.
¿Quién está hablando? Que si burbujas, quiero nacer burbujas de amor. What we talking about here, bro? Diga, periódico ayer. He called this hoe a hoe in the most poetic way. Mm-hmm. He said, "You're yesterday's news, bro." Qué herida, right? Pero la letra de mala conducta is where you drew the line, right? Because it's not dressed up,
exactly,
right? Like you want the ratchetness. You just want it wrapped up a little way. And it's the same thing. When we unwrap it, we're talking about the same thing, getting it popping. Mm-hmm. Old boy saying, "You gave it to me so good, I can't stop forgetting about that old hotel." You put it on them.
I think also it's because it was very vulgar.
Yeah,
how they say it, and you know,
cafre. Era cafre. Yeah.
Sí. And I think we all have cafre, like a little bit of cafre.
Claro.
You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think everybody goes through that phase where you like, is this really it, right? Mm. And at that time, you know, I couldn't connect.
Yeah.
And I think once it became more commercialized, it was everywhere. So I think that's what was like, whoa, this is what it really is. Yeah. You know? But I think
for us, like, too, we get caught up in that identity means one thing.
Right.
That we can't be multi-complex individuals, and that on this day, I am cafre. I am feeling like I want to put this shit down and ride around in my Honda getting it.
Exactly.
And then there's times I'm going to dress up a little proper, you know, and I'm going to use my good English or my good Spanish on whatever day, depending what job I'm clocked into. Yeah. And, you know, show up that way. But I feel like society doesn't allow you to just be a multitude of things. It's like you have to be this. And I can only assume in your profession, you really can't show up your full self. See, I work in a nonprofit space. Like, we're able to show up our full selves a lot more. Like, my boss is coming in blasting Bad Bunny or the likes of, or anytime I'm walking to his office, he's listening to like old school R&B. You know, like you're giving parts of yourself at work. I can recognize in your line of work, you can't do that. Right. There's this very tight line of what professionalism, corporate culture is.
Yes.
And you're brought into it.
Absolutely. Like, to be very honest, for me, it's like I went from listening to what was trendy at the time, right? And at the time,
like top 40 radio.
Top 40, yeah. And it was like Luis Fonsi. And don't get me wrong, I love Luis Fonsi.
Yeah.
But like it was like very pop. It was very pop. And you know, reggaeton, I would listen to it, but I knew what to expect from it.
Okay.
And it wasn't commercialized at the time, so I was like, oh yeah, I can listen to this.
So like, what Latin genre of music were you more connected to outside of like top 40 radio? Like, were you doing the old school salsa, the merengue?
Old school salsa, the merengue, you know, the Giselle.
Fun fact, my dad gave me Giselle's album for Christmas.
He did?
With my own CD player.
Yes. Stop.
Yes.
Stop.
The one where she has like paint on her.
And it's like, are you better to breathe? You said I love you. No, but you know, like, I will listen to my mom used to listen to like Límite 21 and very, very like Puerto Rico bands and groups from the island, because that's what she knew.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't like listen to English music. So that's what I grew up with. But I feel like, again, it goes back to like me trying to connect at a different level of like, okay, I am from the island. I don't know what happens that you kind of like, you're trying to discover yourself as a human. And in addition to that, you are adding another layer of like, okay, you are moving to a totally different environment of where you grew up with, that you can get lost.
Yeah, and I think that's the want.
Yes.
You know, not to be conspiracy. That's the they, right? Like, it's this come, join, be a part of, and lose everything about you, because there's this like belief on the other side that you will be like us too, but that's not the truth.
Correct.
Right? Because once you're on the other side, they will remind you that you're not like us. You know, remind you that you will never be able to be the top, right? And if you play into the tokenism of that, remember, tokens get spent.
Yeah.
And they gonna spend your ass as soon as they can, right? And that's so interesting to recognize that as somebody from the isla here, and then being on the island. I think because we're not from the island, we do it even more.
Right.
Para decir, yo soy boricua
exactly.
Más que tú, right?
Right.
Because we now have to catch up to y'all.
Yes.
Because some of us might not have the language, right?
Exactly.
We only have other opposite ends of the culture. So we're going to come with the jersey dress from the...
yes.
the flag.
Earring, you know what I mean? Like, or, you're representing.
Right. And so much so... because it's pride, right? Because now we have to let them know here who we are, and for a lot of times we had to be like, yo, we're this too to y'all, right? Because there wasn't the exception. I mean, I can remember my cousins calling me gringa because like I had an accent when I spoke Spanish when I was a kid, and being real like, who is you calling a white girl? Not very white over here, but that is what what they could get to me. And then the worst part is us doing it to them. I do it bien jiba.
Yeah.
Oh, now that I know that
you hit the nail. You hit the nail. Because you know, you don't understand that. I'm sorry. Jibaro is trending now.
Yeah.
Being a Jibaro is it. You know? And before
it was like you being called a country bumpkin.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. So it's just interesting to see, and that's why I go back to like how I didn't like Bad Bunny, and now it's like with this album, he connected me, and I mean he did it with the others as well. Like Verano Sin Ti was a very like album that got me back to like giving him the opportunity. Yeah, you know, I will always listen to his music.
I can just imagine Josie like having tryouts with Bad Bunny. Like,
I did.
Show up.
I did.
Do it well.
I did. Actually, I did. So with Verano Sin Ti, I listened a little bit to the trap that he did, right? And I went back and like listened to where he came from. He came, you know, from SoundCloud. And if you go to SoundCloud, guys, there is a song called "Mi Puerto Rico" by Bad Bunny. Look it up, and you will understand why this kid is doing what he's doing right now.
Ooh.
But listen, I was not a fan. But then once he got me,
you went back. So do you do that a lot too? Like when you get introduced to a new artist, like listen to their popular stuff and then run it back?
I do.
Me too.
Because I want to know who you are.
Yeah.
You know, I want to know if you know the entertainment industry and the music business itself is it's a Wild West. And having that, seeing, I was like, okay, let's see how this industry got you. You know, like, we're going to talk about this, but, you know, I love my Kara G. I know that you don't like her like that, but...
You know, she's cute or whatever. However, two things can exist at the same time that I think that it's a copy and paste of the situation. And it comes the big controversy of...
The copy and paste.
It is, and then the globalization and commercialization of reggaeton, which is funny, right? Because it's like you didn't like it, but you also are ingesting the globalization of reggaeton with us.
Yes.
Right? Like her using the word bichota, which I hate it. To this day. Like, why does that exist? I know it's your fault.
But you have to give it to her. Like,
do I?
You don't. You're right. But you have to, like, I see it in a way of, like, she educated herself of how to blend in, right? She wanted to be accepted. She wanted to be accepted, right? And the only one that she knew how to do it, it was like, let me be one of them. Or try to be one of them.
I think my biggest ick of it all with her, the Rosalias of the world, is that there was a dama reggaeton already there. Yes. And y'all bypassed Evie Queen.
Yeah.
And y'all assigned all of this like fame and fortune. Y'all could have raised, and don't get me wrong, Evie's still doing her thing, but I feel like el éxito de ella todavía se le merece, and y'all still deserve a lot of respect because she was out there. She was the only one for the longest time with all these dudes behind her ripping and running and making a name for herself that y'all took from that culture again. And similar to what they do here in the States with black culture, not African American, like rap, R&B is like, we want the essence and we're gonna attach it to the most, what we think is the aesthetics, the whitest version possible, whatever blend, and take away and not give the right assignment to its originator. And with that always bothered me because when, you know, Rosalia was over here with the flamenco, I'm like, okay, that's cute. And then she started like sing-songing with the reggaeton. I'm like, why is she here? Like, who invited her? Like, who is this colonizer, right? And like, I think there's twofold. One, the industry that assigns it, and two, you who don't do your due diligence to say, I don't think I belong in this space.
Exactly. No, but it's kind of hard, right? And I see it both ways. I see it, for example, with the Bad Bunny and the Karol G. Like we say, yeah, she does everything he does. She like 2 minutes later, you will see she's gonna dedicate an album to Colombia. We're gonna see it. I love you, Carol. But you know, we're gonna see that. But it's also like that goes back.
in Colombia.
No, so it's. I think it's more of like, for me, it's more of like I want to go back and see what the artist at the beginning was, because that's the essence of an artist, right? Mm-hmm. The industry has not got to it yet.
Yeah.
And
or what did it turn it to?
Correct.
Like, what did you turn from that? Right?
Exactly. And I feel like Bad Bunny, by studying, I didn't give him the benefit of the doubt because what he showed is like
lo vulgar,
right? And for me, it was like, I don't know. Like, do I want to listen to a song that says "Si tu novio"? You know what I mean? But then,
I do,
and I do now. Let me rephrase that. But at that moment, for me, it was like, okay, who are you? What are you doing? And then when I saw the evolution with the album of like Verano Sin Ti, I was like, okay, you can do your thing. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not just like.
Y las colaboraciones también, right?
Yes.
Like you have Songs de las Marias, you have Tony Dice, right? Yes. Like there's also this nostalgia too, the throwback of the old school reggaeton that also brings you into right. El homenaje, hecho bien. Yeah. In a way that we're now seeing, like, it's hard to believe that these songs are 20 plus years old, because I refuse to believe that they're that, because then that means I'm aging. But also at the same time, like you said, like he didn't you weren't identified with him, but at the same time you weren't really supposed to. That wasn't the demographic you were supposed to connect to, right? Like he was not for you,
right?
But at the same time, that other disconnect was, I'm in this space in the States, and I'm trying to figure out who am I here.
Correct.
Right? Because when you get back to the island, you are who you are. You ripping and running like you never left. But here we have to present such a way, because we don't always get a chance to say, oh, let me see the multifacets of you.
Right.
Let me see exactly who you are.
Yep.
But that we have been 2 yapasauruses on the mic.
Yes.
And so for that, we want to wrap up our first episode. We want to say thank you for listening. And by all means, leave anything in the comments of segments that you want to, have us do, engage. We're also going to have our friends. We're going to be volunteering and voluntelling our friends to be on the pod. So because it's going to be some cultural things, going to be some millennial womanhood things.
It's a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything that our culture runs through. All of those topics. So we love you for listening.
Yes, we love you, and please let us know what you guys want to hear, and we're here.
And give us a rating, give us a tips. Don't be mean,
please.
We're just 2 millennial women.
We need kindness in this world,
right? The world sucks ass as it is.
Here we go. This is why. You know what? I'm over here being like peacemaker. Then there you go.
The world sucks ass, because it does. But we want the world to suck ass less. And, just give us any suggestions. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you, and welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
¿Y cómo se fue ese café?
Hey, buenísimo. I think I might need another coffee.
Might so too. Let's make a cup. Bye.